is our first live stream ever. So I might make a couple of mistakes here and there. And so I do ask that you bear with me. In case you don't know or you are new to our channel in general, I'm a real estate, essentially entrepreneur, became a real estate broker. Now I sell businesses as well. And I originally got started in math tutoring. That was my very first freelance job where I was an entrepreneur, had to do my own sales, taking my own clients, manage my own funds. And so I wanted to share with the community here how to get started in real estate anywhere from $0 to $1,000 to $10,000. We'll go into $20,000, $100,000, $200,000, $1 million, and we'll go all the way up to 10 million in this video. The reason why we're making it is because we truly believe on this channel that there are zero excuses to get started in real estate. Everybody starts their journey at a different place, and so whether or not you are an adult with a lot of money or whether you're just starting out. We got a comment on our YouTube channel. I guess the guy was 15 years old, started an e-commerce business. He had about 15 grand and he's like, hey, how do I get started in real estate? And I think this video is gonna be a great idea for some folks like that. So without any further ado, let's jump right into how to make money in real estate even with $0. Now, we're gonna go into first-time homebuyer programs. So you're gonna need an income in order to pay off the loan, right? Or to qualify for the loan. So that's step one. So this is designed for somebody, maybe you are making a good income. You maybe just graduated from college, maybe you're working on a master's degree. So a lot of your extra money is going towards furthering your education. You don't have a lot of money to be putting down on a down payment on a home. This would be great for you. It's going to give you some exposure to the real estate market without having to essentially lose a bunch of capital that could be going into furthering your education. And the reason why you might not have a lot of money, even though you're making a high income, is maybe you're like me. Maybe you got through college debt-free, you took a lot of responsibility, made a good choices, and you didn't take out a bunch of loans in order to get out of college. So you have capital to available to essentially invest in real estate if you got a loan and pay off that loan, but you don't have a lot of money to necessarily put a big down payment down because that could stifle your career. And I understand that, and that's why I didn't buy a home at first. It's because I didn't actually qualify for a first-time home buyer program. So some of these programs require qualifications, to make sure you reach out to a lender in order to get that process started. But with that being said, there's a couple of ways that we can kind of make back that money even if we're not using the whole home, right? We might be buying a home with 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 bedrooms, and you might be a single person, maybe you got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, maybe you're married or you don't have any kids, and so there's no need for you to have a space that big with that many rooms. Well, what you could do is you could rent out the other rooms to some of your friends, or you can just make some friends, or you can just put out an ad on Craigslist or on Facebook and vet people out and get some roommates, and that can help offset the loan payment. So that way, it's going to be probably much more affordable than living in your own apartment, and you're going to have some people that are living in your house with you, which will be pretty nice. So that's one way to get started, even with $0 available to put down. Now, I had a client recently do a transaction just like this. It was zero money down, completely with a first-time homebuyer program. And in order to do that, though, they did need to put $2,000 essentially an earnest money deposit, and then after the transaction closed, they got their $2,000 back. So you might say, Davin, that's not truly $0. Well, what I'm saying is it's temporary, right? You're putting the $2,000 in, it's only going to be in the contract for about a month, and then you're taking that $2,000 back out and you're able to spend that. So if you wanted to buy a car and you needed that money for a down payment for a car, or like I said, you're going to college and you need that money in a few months to be able to put down on a semester of college, maybe, I don't think $2,000 is going to pay for an entire semester, but let's just say you got $6,000 saved up. You're like, I don't have any extra money, right? Well, you're going to get that $2,000 back. So it's one way to invest in real estate, get some exposure to the market, and potentially get infinite returns, because if the market goes up, then you have, essentially exposure to the capital gains on that property without any investment into it. So that's pretty cool. Now, one consequence of this that you're going to have to understand is that your loan payment is going to be significantly higher than somebody else who put even any money down. If they put 5% down or even 3.5% down, they're going to get a significantly lower loan payment. So what you gain in capital or liquidity, you're essentially losing in a little bit of cash flow, but that's going to offset itself through time. As you know, you may not know, but real estate is exposed to inflation, which means that as inflation goes on, it makes your loan seem cheaper and cheaper and cheaper over time. So it doesn't really matter what your monthly payment is. It just extends the amount of time that you'll essentially realize the positive cash flow from your decision. So that's all it's going to do. Now, next thing we're going to get into is what if you got $1,000, all right? With $1,000, you're really not going to be able to do anything much different than the zero money down first-time homebuyer programs. So we're going to talk about a really interesting alternative I think a lot of people don't think about, and that is stocks, right? So you can invest in what are called REITs. They are real estate investment trusts. And essentially you are paying money, right, to own shares of a stock, and some essentially manager of that company, of that fund, is going out there, they're buying real estate, they're collecting rent from tenants, and then they have to distribute 90% of that profit in the form of a dividend. And what's great about this is the investor pays the taxes and they don't have to pay a corporate tax rate. So with most stocks, in order to get a dividend, you get taxed twice, versus with real estate, you only get taxed once. And if you hold it in an IRA, you can get taxed $0. Again, we don't give tax advice on this channel. Make sure you always get tax advice from your tax advisor, but it's just one advantage of owning a REIT is the ability to avoid paying taxes, or for your company or the stock that you're owning to pay taxes. Because if you own the stock and the stock pays taxes, you're paying taxes too, right? So that's one cool way to avoid taxes by owning REITs. Another way to get exposure to the real estate market through stocks is actually through owning banks, right? Wells Fargo, even regional banks. These banks are going to give you exposure to the real estate market in a really interesting way. And that's because when the real estate market goes up in value, a lot of investors take out new loans, right? Those loans have transaction fees and those banks make money on the transaction fees, right? So a lot of times the problem with REITs is you get a lot of exposure and you only essentially see appreciation in the stock when the dividends go up from rental increases. But if you're in a period with low inflation, then rental increases are not going to happen as much, and then your stocks aren't going to go up in value as much. So a really good way to offset that is in a low interest rate environment, a lot of these banks are going to be selling loans to a lot of these real estate companies who are trying to acquire more real estate. That real estate's going up in value independent of the rental income. And so that's another way to kind of make a little bit more money on the appreciation side, a little bit less cash flow. But sometimes people want some balance in their portfolio, and so that could be a great option for you. Another aspect of owning stocks is home builders. A lot of people forget about the new construction market, and you can get exposure to that market by owning new home builder stocks. And so one of the ones that I invest in, and this is not investment advice, but I'm just letting you know, is XHB, I believe is the ticker symbol. If you're interested in these ticker symbols, comment down below. This is a great opportunity. Let me know. Maybe I can make a follow-up video, maybe a little short or something, answering your question, and I'll reply to your comment. I reply out of the comments, by the way, even the dumb ones. So trust me, if you leave a comment, it's always appreciated. Doesn't matter how dumb it is. Honestly, we get a lot of really good comments too, which is what inspired this live stream. So I appreciate them very much. All right. Next thing we're going to get into, what if you have $10,000? Now, $10,000 is where we can still be in the stock market, but you might be able to start trading options on your stocks. And so if you are buying these investments either in your IRA or in a brokerage account, no matter how you hold them, you might own them because of the income. And if you want to accelerate that income, you can sell options against your shares, whether you're selling covered calls or cash secured puts, and it can kind of give you a little bit more exposure to some profits in a new way, and maybe just amplify your profits even more. I'm not going to go into the details of trading options. Obviously, trading options has its own risks, but there's some really profitable ways to trade options. I do it in my own portfolio. I've had a lot of success in it. And so it's something that I would definitely look into if you had about $10,000 and you wanted to get some exposure to the real estate market, but you weren't quite ready to buy a home yet. All right. Next thing that we can get into is if you got 20 grand. If you got about 20 grand, that gets you into the step of being able to qualify for a conventional loan on a starter home. Who does this help? Now, if you already use the first-time homebuyer program and you want to acquire another property, if you're getting good rental income from your current roommates, it might be a really good opportunity for you to put 20 grand down, get a conventional loan on your second property. And so you essentially now have two properties that are really highly leveraged. Your profit margins are gonna be astronomical. You could definitely get 100% plus returns with this strategy. Something you gotta keep in mind though is because you're highly leveraged, is your equity could go down really quickly as well if the real estate market were to go down. So something to consider with this strategy is you're probably not going to be retiring really soon with this, so you would need to have a high and secure income in order to be able to get through those valleys in the real estate market. Most valleys in the real estate market only last for a few months to a couple of years. We're in one right now. And the 2008 crisis has never happened before in history. And so I'm not trying to say it won't ever happen again, but it's definitely something that maybe you should plan for is if your job can sustain the kind of income that you're currently making for the next 10 years, then this is a strategy that might work well for you. Again, this is not investment advice, but if your income is a little bit less stable and you're dependent on your income a little bit more, the strategy might not be perfect. But if you don't qualify for a zero money down first time home buyer program, this could be a good option for you to get your first home, use a little bit more leverage. And I really don't mind personally using more leverage when I'm young because I got time. I'm working, right? I'm going to work every day. I'm earning an income and I'm not planning on retiring 100% from work until I'm a little bit older. And so I'm okay being a little bit more leveraged now. As the real estate market appreciates over time, that leverage is going to be a lot more favorable when I'm a little bit more wealthy and a little bit more risk adverse. So something to look out for if you got 20 grand. Another interesting thing is this is right around the same amount of money that I would recommend a real estate agent have before they start a real estate career. So if you maybe already own a home and then you have another 20 grand and you're like, hey, what's a side hustle that I could do that's real estate related? You could get a real estate license and start a little real estate business. There's probably more things that you could do, but that's one way to get exposure to the real estate market. You could, if you're really into finance, maybe you can get on the lending side. A lot of lenders make more money than realtors. So if you want to be a lender, that's not a bad idea either. All right, the next big step here is that 100 grand mark. This is that area where we can buy rental properties, right? We're buying a property that we have no intention of living in, right? And we are buying this property specifically to rent it out to a tenant, and that tenant lives there. Now, do you need 100 grand? No, but if you have 100 grand, you're definitely in this market because a lot of times these down payment on these rental properties can be anywhere from as low as maybe 40,000, maybe 50,000, all the way up to about 200,000, which is our next step here. 100,000 can also get you some partnership access. A lot of people will want to see that you have about $100,000 in order to partner with them in a real estate deal. So if you want to get into commercial property, but you don't have enough for your own down payment, about 100 grand is a really good starting point to start looking for some business partners. All right, let's get into commercial real estate. About $200,000 will get you into most small commercial real estate deals. It's about the starting point. I'm not saying that it's gonna get you the biggest commercial deal ever, but you're definitely in shooting range on some really good properties and the ability to benefit from not only the residential market, but some of the business happenings that are going on in your town. And so if you've got some businesses that are really successful, you could possibly become their landlord and benefit from their future success. So something to consider is commercial real estate once you're at that $200,000 wealth mark. Next thing that we can get into is what if you got $1 million cash? You got $1 million cash sitting around. What could you do with that in the real estate market? Now, not a lot of people have $1 million in cash. A lot of millionaires actually have it through equity, through like owning real estate or owning stock or owning a share of a company. But if you got $1 million in cash sitting around for whatever reason and you wanted to invest that in real estate, there's a really good possibility that you could completely replace your income. You see, a lot of the median salaries in the United States range anywhere from $30,000 up to about $100,000. And with $1 million in real estate, you should be able to invest that into a few rental properties and pretty easily be able to come up with about 50 grand, depending of course, excuse me, depending of course on the market that you are in. Maybe you're not going to get all that from cash flow. Maybe you're going to get some of that income through refinances. But we're now in the income replacement territory. Now, once you have about $1 million worth of equity invested in real estate. So something to consider if you are trying to retire on a budget. All right, let's get into the absolute last stage of investing in real estate. So the absolute last stage is when you have maybe about $10 million or more. Now, I'm not at this stage. I've worked with clients who are, and it's quite a privilege because they've got some really cool insights to how they live their lives. But once you own about $10 million worth of real estate, you can pretty much live whatever lifestyle you would want to live. I'd say for the average person. I mean, there are some people who are just born into extreme wealth and they go into life with that standard and they're trying to increase that standard. And I say good for you. But I'm saying for your average Joe, you know, you started at broke at 18 years old. Once you hit about $10 million worth of wealth, you can pretty much do what you want to do and go where you want to go. You can travel around the world. You have enough finances to where your real estate, if it's making somewhere a cumulative return, I'm not saying cash flow, but a cumulative return of 10% or more, because real estate in general, without leverage, will perform at around that 10%, maybe more mark. And then with leverage, you can get real estate to perform well over 100% sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. And so if you're getting 10% returns or more cumulative on your assets, that's $1 million a year to be able to spend. So you're truly a multimillionaire, right? You got $1 million worth of income coming in every year, and you can pretty much live the lifestyle you want. A lot of people, when they're shopping for their dream home, like if you were just to tell somebody like, hey, look, money is no object, right? Give me all of the features that you want in your dream home. And I'm talking most people. If they're like, oh, I want, 200 acres of land. I want a 5-bedroom, 2-story house, and I want, 4-car garage. Like if you really start looking at the entire US and you start putting all those things together, you can probably find a home for $10 million, that has, like I said, almost everybody's criteria. And that's oftentimes a problem with first-time home buyers, by the way, is they're so focused on their dream home that they're unwilling to buy a starter home. And so just realize that I'm not promising you that if you buy a starter home, that one property is going to be able to provide enough returns to invest and get to $10 million. You're going to have to keep working, and you're going to have to keep buying more real estate and letting those assets grow and letting those assets invest in other assets, right? Once you're around that $1 million mark, you can, like I said, you're at that income replacement level. So either you could quit your job and live off your assets, or you can keep your job and let your assets keep buying more assets until you get to that $10 million mark. You see, oftentimes in investing, it's really hard to get to that $100,000 worth of net worth. And if you are at any of the early stages between $0 of net worth, you're 100% broke, or you're at maybe that $20,000 level, one of the fastest ways to get there is through home ownership and just riding the wave of that home going up in value over the course of not 1 year, but 5 years, 10 years, and you'll eventually get to that $100,000 of equity level. I'm not saying every single market's going to perform this way, but where I live in Henderson, this is pretty common. Homes do appreciate a little bit more rapidly in our market than in other markets. And so It's a really good strategy. If you want to get up to $100,000 in net worth and you really don't know how to do it, buying a home and just simply making your monthly payments. And if you're single, getting roommates to help, get them to make your monthly payments for you is a really, really good strategy on how to get to $100,000 in net worth. And then like I said, once you're at that $100,000, I mean, you can see your opportunities start opening up because you can do almost all the things that you can do previously, but now you can just do more of them, and you have new opportunities that you didn't get access to when you only had $0 and when you only had 20 grand. So with that being said, I hope if one person gets anything from this live stream, that's a success for us, and please comment down below. If you got any other feedback, we're open to it. We want to make sure we're answering your questions. So if you've got questions, this was an overview, and we didn't really dive deep on the specifics of like how to invest in stocks, how to invest with options, how to get a real estate partnership. We didn't do any of that. We just said that you could do it right around these wealth levels. And so just trying to show you that there are different ways to invest in real estate for different kinds of goals and different kinds of opportunities. So I hope that you got something out of this video. We'll see you guys next time.